you all? I hope you're doing well. If there's an echo, I apologize. I'm moving out of it. I have 3 more hours left in this apartment. I had time to kill, so I thought I would talk to you. And there's no furniture in here. That's why there's an echo. But I promise it won't happen again. Unless I make another video right after this, which I think I will. But it won't happen again because I won't be in an empty apartment again, hopefully. But I'm very excited to move. Anyway, so we've talked about the border crisis a few times. It's been all over the news the past few weeks. Biden, as soon as he got into office, he reversed some of Trump's policies that were actually working to help curb our surges that we see at the border. And because of that, because of the rhetoric that Biden had basically throughout his entire campaign, and even when he got in office, such as he actually called for a surge at the border. He said if he's elected, there will be a surge at the border. He said he's going to legalize 11 million illegal immigrants. He's offering benefits and things like that to people coming over the border. So we are seeing just an unprecedented surge at the border. The people that work for Border Patrol are saying it's the worst they've seen in 20 years. Some are even saying it's the worst they've seen in 40 years, but we'll go with 20. But it's pretty bad. Some of these facilities, they're at 700% capacity, which you should be at 100, under 100%. And if you know anything about the pandemic, basically everything that is open, nothing is supposed to be at 100%. Well, they are at over 700%. Over capacity. And what's crazy is one of the most vocal people about the children being held at these facilities during the Trump administration was AOC. She had the awkward photo shoot at the in in which she made these faces, and then we found out she was actually looking at an empty parking lot. That was awkward. She called them concentration camps, although she never actually reported them, because if you actually saw kids in concentration camps, wouldn't you do everything within your power all day, every day until that problem was fixed? So I'm guessing that's not actually what she saw, which it wasn't. We know that now. This was just her having a media moment. I don't know. When AOC was talking about this under Trump, it was not even a fraction of what we're seeing now. The facilities were not even anywhere near capacity, and now they are 700 plus capacity. So naturally, everyone's been wondering where AOC is. She was one of the most vocal people under Trump, and she has been completely radio silent on this whole entire thing. Well, guess what? AOC has finally decided to speak on the border crisis. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's see what she said. We'll just watch it together. This is an Instagram live that she did yesterday, so let's look at what she had to say about the border.
They'll say, what about the surge? Well, first of all, just gut check, stop. Anyone who's using the term surge around you consciously is trying to invoke a militaristic frame. And that's a problem, because this is not a surge. These are children, and they are not insurgents, and we are not being invaded, which, by the way, is a white supremacist idea, philosophy. The idea that if an other is coming in the population, that this is like an invasion of who we are. They want to say, what about the surge?
That was AOC. Especially this past year, I've tried so hard to give her the benefit of the doubt sometimes. I really have. I try to play devil's advocate. I try to see from the other side. I try to get it. This is a very dangerous individual. This is probably the most, I don't want to say dumb, because she can't be that dumb. But you know what's scary? She has millions of followers. She is probably one of the most famous politicians that we have right now, and these are the things that are coming out of her mouth. And what's sad and scary is that there are people that believe her. Whenever I make a video about AOC, I have people just saying just the nastiest things to me because they have such blind support for her. But what they fail to do is, so you're going to defend this person rather than saying, why is this politician lying to me? Wow, this person is being dishonest to me about what's going on. So she's been silent about the border this entire time, and this is what she said. By the way, the word surge was actually used by President Biden in his candidacy. He himself said that if he was elected, he was going to see a surge at the border, but he is white, so maybe it is a white supreme sandwich word, as AOC says. But here we go again with them trying to sugarcoat and not tell you what is actually happening. I would definitely call this a border. I would definitely call this a crisis. Let's look at what's been happening on the border. So we recently had a 6-month-old that was saved from the Rio Grande. So Texas Rangers saved a 6-month-old baby thrown from raft into the Rio Grande River. So this is what is happening. Smugglers are smuggling children and families and all kinds of people over the border and are putting them in danger. I think it's something like 1 in 3 people get assaulted, sexually assaulted on the trek over. We have the cartel in February made $114 million off the border in the month of February. It said they make somewhere like $14 million a day smuggling people over the border. You had smugglers on TV recently laughing and saying it's so easy. They have so much business now. You also have a 9-year-old that died in the Rio Grande River recently. A 9-year-old girl died after drowning during an attempt to cross the Rio Grande to the U.S. with her family. That was March 27th that came out. I would very much say this is a crisis. Not to mention, we're in the middle of a pandemic and people are being smushed together in these holding facilities like sardines. You know, AOC went down to visit during the Trump administration when it wasn't anywhere near as bad as it is right now. And now it is, I don't even know how many times worse. I didn't do well in math, but I would say it is significantly worse right now, and she can't be bothered to go down and see. And how dare you call this a surge? How dare you call this a crisis? If you do, you're a supreme sandwich. I want to read you what's happening with this 6-month-old and the little girl that was found in the river, and then we're going to talk about Brian Stelter. Also, he's another person that seems to be wanting to deny what is happening at the border. And you know, AOC and Brian Stelter, all of these people that are trying to shove it under the rug, guess what? The pictures are there. The images are there. The video footage is there. It's all there. We see it. You can't hide from it anymore. So let's look at this story. Texas Rangers save 6-month-old baby thrown from raft into Rio Grande River. The South Texas Special Operations Group of the Texas Rangers saved a 6-month-old baby who was tossed from a raft into the Rio Grande River this month. The child's mother had her leg broken when she was assaulted by smugglers in Mexico, according to the Texas Department of Public Safety. The South Texas Special Operations Group, which was assisting Border Patrol near the town of Roma at the time, frequently carries out missions along the Texas border to deter and detect crime. Thousands of children and families have attempted to cross the southern border in recent weeks, leading to overcrowded facilities among the pandemic. The Biden administration allowed reporters from the Associated Press and CBS to enter both the main detention facility and for the migrant children in Donna, Texas on Tuesday. So I'm just going to show you these pictures. This is how crowded it is on the border. So given what we just heard, given these pictures, given what we know about the cartel who are just raking in the dough under this crisis, I would call it exactly what I just said. I would call it a crisis. Story was from Fox News. I'll link to it below if you want to read the rest of it. And then this is from The Insider. A 9-year-old girl died after drowning during an attempt to cross the Rio Grande River to the U.S. with her family. A 9-year-old little girl died from drowning while trying to get into the U.S. with her family last week, despite medical efforts to save her life. A family, a mother of Guatemala and her 2 children from Mexico, were attempting to cross the Rio Grande River to enter the U.S. on March 20th, according to a news release from the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol. Border Patrol agents discovered the family, who was unconscious, stranded on an island on the Mexican side of the river. During the medical recovery efforts, the mother and her 3-year-old child regained consciousness, according to the news release. Agents attempted life-saving efforts on the second child, a 9-year-old from Mexico, and transferred care to the Eagle Pass Fire Department's emergency medical services. The child remained unresponsive and was pronounced deceased by medical professionals. Basically, Biden reversed everything that Trump had in place that was deterring people from making these dangerous journeys. And it's just wild because it's like they just could not help themselves. If they would have just left it alone, they didn't have to do anything. Everything was all done. Everything was working. If they just would have left it alone, no one would have noticed. No one would have said anything. He could have even taken credit for the amazing border under his presidency. Biden could have. But no, they couldn't help themselves. They had to reverse all these policies as soon as they got into the White House, even though they were advised not to. And now they're putting people in awkward positions like AOC and Brian Stelter, who we're going to talk about next, who now all of a sudden don't know what to say because they criticized the Trump administration so much, and now the situation has got worse, and they're put in a weird place, and now their pandering has never been so obvious as what it is right now. It is very obvious that AOC does not actually care about what she is talking about because the problem is even worse now, and she's not acknowledging it. So it is very clear that she's pandering to whatever side is more convenient for her political party. And this is the new point that she's making, that anyone that criticizes the border is now a right wing or a supreme sandwich. That's basically what they say with everything. Well, it's not working anymore. We see the pictures. Okay, so let's go over to, this is from the New York Post. I'm going to read you a little bit of this conversation from this article, but it's really interesting. Stelter accused conservative media outlets on the latest edition of Reliable Sources of pressuring Biden to visit the southern border amid the surge of migrants trying to get into the U.S. That is how right-wing narratives trickle into the rest of the press and they divert attention, Stelter said on his show. The guest Washington Post columnist Greg Sargent and Salon writer Amanda Marcotte both agreed that Republicans are setting the agenda on immigration and they decide that there's a border crisis. So what they're saying is this is a crisis made up by Republicans for talking points and for argument's sake. That's what they're saying. Which is what they say about everything they don't agree with. Remember Gavin Newsom? Even our governor Gavin Newsom said that everyone that wanted to sign the recall Gavin Newsom was a right-wing extremist, when in actuality it's about 50% Democrats. But again, they do this to their opposition instead of actually having an argument. They just throw names out there and then run away, think that everyone's going to be distracted. Moments later, Carl was welcomed onto the program to discuss what he thought about the questions that were asked at Biden's first press conference. As Stelter noted, the questions included Carl's colleague, ABC News White House correspondent Cecilia Vega, who grilled the president on the migrant crisis. Okay, now listen to this. Watching from home, I would have liked to have seen, more questions, certainly on the pandemic, but there were some good questions asked, Carl said. You pointed to Cecilia Vega. I think that's incredibly valuable, that it's not right-wing talking points. Cecilia had just been at the border and she had just talked to migrants who have come over, including some that said point blank that they had come because they found they would have better treatment now that Joe Biden was president. That's a legitimate question to put to the president, and I thought that his answer was one of the more interesting moments in that press conference. Stelter quickly moved on to a different subject. So I just don't think this is something they can hide from too much. Again, we see the pictures, we see what's going on. It's not a left-right thing. At this point, this is a humanitarian issue, and there is a lot of questions to be asked. And so we'll see what's happening with this. As far as I know, no one on the Biden team has any plans to visit the border as of yet. I know they put Kamala Harris in charge. And last time I checked, she, as of right now, has no intentions of visiting the border. So we'll see what happens with this. Let me know what you guys think of everything.